Welcome to the Doom Den. Hi, welcome to the Doom Den. I am Dr. McKnight, and today, whatever time of day it may be, whenever this is being watched, it's time to chat about, again, a lot of crazy shit going on in the country all at the same time. Does anyone remember the show Mega Disasters? And go over different scenarios each episode, ranging from hurricanes, firestorms, major volcanoes, oil or energy shortages, etc., etc. Well, I think one good topic today, of course, is always major civil disturbance, all breaking out at the same time, all over the place, leading to widespread rioting, looting, vandalism, people getting hurt, and probably even worse shit happening to people that's not covered by anyone. So, why is it worth talking about it? Well, really, for people to help get prepared to when it breaks out in their area. And people always say, and it's never going to happen in my area. Well, there's a whole lot of places where it is happening that probably said that exact same thing. Like Kenosha, Wisconsin, for example. There's other places. We can kind of see it coming, like Los Angeles and Chicago. Ever places like, nobody really maybe thought that would happen in Minneapolis, definitely not Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so, really just want to be prepared for it when it trickles in to our own areas and our own neighborhoods. If you notice a lot of those looting, rioting, and stupid shit that people are doing, guess what they're around? Well, they're doing it. And if you guessed small businesses and residential areas, that would be correct. Now, if you guessed, government buildings, police stations, well, that would be incorrect. That's where they would actually be protesting any injustice, but however, when it comes to looting, rioting, vandalism, all of that is done against all the individual people of the area. It's not done it's not done against, the man that's keeping everybody down and shooting unarmed people in the back and all that kind of shit. Nope. It has absolutely nothing to do with any kind of inequality or racial justice. It has to do with bad guys and criminals being able to do whatever the fuck they want to do and get away with it. And how long are they going to get away with it for? Well, they can get away with it until there's a crackdown on it and they shut that shit down. So they go into residential areas and the people resist them and, give them exactly what those looters and rioters and vandalizers and criminals actually deserve. Then all those criminals will, they will leave in one way or another. So that's how it is stopped. Yes, good help from that office like National Guard and law enforcement will definitely help to curb the problem. But when the supposed enemy is the man, which includes like the law enforcement and National Guard, it may or may not even make the situation even worse. However, when it's all the people that live in the area, basically make the criminals go away in one form or another, that's when those criminals will decide, well, shit, maybe it's not a good idea for me to go try to vandalize a person's business or their house because I'll get my ass blown away. And good job, 17-year-old guy Kyle. I was even using his EMT skills to help people out. Then ended up getting chased by those criminals who were not black. And he was not doing any kind of premeditated murder towards people, towards any minorities. All those that are assaulting him, guess what? They were not black. So, based on all those other videos that are now available, that shows that Kyle kid getting chased all over and getting hit with a skateboard. Well, he did the only thing he can to protect his own life. You notice that he didn't just start shooting at everybody, right? And he was even trying to get away from all of that stuff. Well, he's trying to get away from the people that were actively chasing him. Let me put it that way. Until he really couldn't go no more, and had to use deadly force to stop the attacker, and then tried to surrender himself to the police. And the police probably just thought, they just saw his arms up in the air and like, okay, he's not pointing a weapon at us, they're gonna see what's going on. And then later, when they figured out what was going on, and guess what? He went along peacefully. So, yes, I know there's probably gonna be a lot of people that hate hearing me say that, but hey, fuck it. It's really what the evidence is showing right now. And really can't go off a whole lot more than that, because everything is not known right now. That's really just based on what I saw. So, in addition to that particular thing that's going on, what else do we have going on? Oh, Portland's still burning, whether you're talking physically or figuratively. Yes, Portland's still burning. Damn, I hate getting political on this too. The liberal shining light of Portland and Seattle, burning, getting crumbled to the ground, unsafe for the people that actually live there, that just want to go about their daily lives, to a bunch of another group of fucking criminals. Like Antifa, that terrorist organization, is nothing but a bunch of criminals that want to create anarchy and chaos. And guess what? Every time some group wants to create anarchy and chaos and spout shit about being for the people, blah, 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 guess what? When they win, they become the tyrant. And even worse shit happens. Just like, well, that's Venezuela, Cuba, Argentina in a way. Well, even when Saddam took over Iraq. Well, even before Saddam took over Iraq, and he was the head of security for the previous dictator who took over Iraq from another one. So guess what? Each dictator always promises it's going to be better. Yeah, support me, it's going to be better, we're going to get rid of the man. And when they become the man, then they're more like, oh fuck yeah, now all you motherfuckers are going to pay for not supporting me to begin with. And then guess what happens? A whole lot of people die, right? Happens over and over and over again. And speaking of human-caused violence-related stuff besides the instability domestically, which takes a lot of tension away from, well, external bad guys. Well, for one, like Vladimir Putin. Yes, the guy who blames the U.S. for the fall of his beloved Soviet fatherland. Would love to see America crumble just like that. And hey, and they teamed up with the other big superpower on the planet, can actually, if they decided to, cause a whole lot of hell to break out even against this country. And even firing missiles, and China flexing their military might a bit more and a bit more every day, whether it's against India or Japan or Taiwan. Yes, because they want to see what the U.S. is going to do. Okay, how far is the U.S. going to let us go? What are they going to do? They're in a way testing our response. Well, in the meantime, meddling with other more domestic related things. Again, test and response. See what's going to be a distraction. See what's going to be a diversion. And let's just say the worst case scenario, hypothetical at this point. Oh, there's enough distraction, division, and all kinds of other crap going on. Now it'll be the time to attack. And we got our good buddy Russia right here with us. We can match the U.S.'s Navy. We can match the U.S.'s ground and air forces. Now is the time we attack because, hey, nations get so big, the only option to go is expansion. That's the way empires have risen and fallen since humans existed. And in that case, yes, I think we actually will defeat the enemies in that situation. However, there'll be very, very horrible costs, and might even knock us back in technology and all kinds of telecommunication, even government society. It'll knock us back a long ways. It'll take a whole lot of rebuilding. Nothing will ever be the same again. Nothing will ever be normal for anyone. So just imagine that full-scale war, or however long that it lasts, on a lot of it being on our own soil. And hey, how do we recover from that? Well, really, same reason we recover from all other things. I'll get to recovery here in a bit once we get onto the hurricane section. Now we're on to the global war hypothetical situation, where bombs land on domestic soil, destroy neighborhoods, destroy critical infrastructure, knock out telecommunications, and all the other utilities. So there's a loss of power for huge amounts of population, which in power also is needed for hospitals and all other critical services, including water and wastewater plants. Water and wastewater plants stop working, guess what? No fresh water. No fresh water, guess what? Also leads to unsanitary situations, including but not limited to proper wastewater system functioning. And that's when the shit will literally get deep. Then, of course, when all that shit is overflowing, pretty literally, not just figure of speech that time, it brings out a whole other series of biological type of issues from hepatitis A and B and any other bad microbes that like to grow in it. So lack of sanitation, lack of clean water, clean drinking water, and then eventually, yes, the food issue. Supply chains getting disrupted from transportation routes getting compromised. How do you defeat an enemy? You destroy their critical infrastructure, you destroy the supply chain, the logistic systems. I think we really learned in COVID, though, that we're pretty resilient and clever to be able to figure out ways to work around all that stuff when the primary systems are compromised, which is another reason for all important continuity planning, keeping shit running, getting shit back online, fixing the critical elements, restoring the critical needs as soon as possible. Yes, I love continuity planning because it's one of the most critically important things to get communities running again. And that's going to be a major step when it comes to recovery in case of, like that hypothetical global war scenario. So let's get into the disease part of that as well. So yes, we got hit with the China virus, as somebody likes to call it, COVID-19. It's a good way of also for external people to be looking, how did the U.S. respond to it? What was their capabilities? How did they get stuff running? Hey, a couple of things to see. Okay, they did get really good here and not so good there, so we can improve our own systems. And then there's also if we want to actually try something against the U.S., where are their flaws? How did they actually get things working so we can work to undermine that better the next time? Yeah, I really don't mean to sound like a conspiracy nut. Anyhow, So diseases getting brought on as secondary things to anything where sanitation systems are no longer working right. Which we'll also dig into hurricane. Hurricane Laura smacked the Texas-Louisiana border as a Category 4, 150 mile an hour winds, and up to a 20-foot storm surge in a lot of areas, and pretty much causing total destruction of every place where those 20-foot storm surge area places that were hit. And if anybody was in there, well, it's almost safe to say that they're totally fucked if there was somebody under all that amount of water. And when a hurricane rolled up, bringing a lot more wind and destruction in all of Louisiana, a lot of people are kind of fucked because they decided to weather out the storm instead of getting the hell out of there. And maybe they weren't anticipating being that bad, or unfortunately, maybe some didn't even have any place to go. So it's going to be very hard for anybody in there to be able to give them any support. One, until the storm completely goes away, and two, until conditions are safe enough to be able to get response personnel and search and rescue personnel into those areas. Because one of the main priorities for incident action planning is the safety of the response personnel in the community. That's the number one priority. That's the number one objective. Everybody wants their people to come home at the end of the shift. At the same time, we also want to do everything we can to ensure that we minimize the loss of life and injury as much as possible. So now, when that hurricane came over and a lot of places are flooded, all that standing water also can lead to, all the standing water leads to other biological growth, but it also tends to overflow like any type of wastewater type of things, which leads to the biological problem again. So if anyone working in there, yes, wear personal protective equipment, don't get all the water on you. If you get the water on you, decontaminate yourself really, really well. Wash gear really good with soap and water. Use sanitizer to kill all those bad little bugs that like to live in shit. And also drink a lot of fluids, drink a lot of water, eat a lot of very healthy food to keep your immune system strong when having to deal with those type of scenarios. It's very important. Keep your body healthy, keep your mind healthy. All of that same stuff again. So, now that the hurricane's passed and we get to the recovery stage, what's next? Well, for one, continue search and rescue operations and coordination operations to find out how many staff are going to be needed to fully effectuate the whole recovery part of it, and even the later response part of it, which response might be going for quite a while, depending on the amount of people that are reported missing or the area that's going to require search and rescue in the very wet areas that may stay wet for quite a while, depending on how fast the flooded areas can drain. So, following the continued search and rescue and emergency response activities, the recovery operations start from one, doing a good damage survey, a good initial damage assessment, to be able to figure out which of the critical lifelines are going to be the highest priority to get restored. And of course, doing anything that relates to more immediate property and environmental protection. And one of those instances right now, and especially environmental protection and I guess property to a certain extent too, is a vast amount of petrochemical industries in a lot of that particular area right near the Gulf from Lake Charles to Beaumont. Those type of places really need to be, that threat needs to be mitigated as well, and to be able to concentrate on the extent of the damage that's been caused by a lot of those leaks, and it can be cleaned up, even though that cleanup will probably take a while to do. But then again, that's one of the initial damage impact surveys. And then we get into, well, how the housing, how many people are without housing that's going to need assistance with it. And I already covered the lifelines part. That's the one most critical. That's critical for every single thing else to function properly. And how are the local government facilities? Are they going to operate? What kind of damage do they sustain? So we get into the more critical type of damage surveys related to government buildings, and of course all the utilities are part of the lifelines. So after the initial damage survey is done, and of course no state can get federal assistance without requesting federal assistance. So that's one thing states need to do. They need to request federal assistance in order to get it, because by law federals can't intervene just on their own. The whole posse comitatus law that prohibits that. And also another note is the Federal Emergency Management Agency is not the one that's going to come and take over the entire operation and save the day for everybody. They're going to come to provide a federal support to the fullest extent that the law allows. I mean, it allows quite a bit. It allows for massive amounts of funding for infrastructure restoration and a limited amount for individuals and immediate needs for housing. And of course, there's actually allowance for a hell of a lot of mitigation. But that we'll get into in a little bit. So, initial damage impact surveys are done, and assistance from federals, and don't forget the EMAC. Don't forget requesting assistance from all the other states and that can possibly lend a hand as well. There's always that option. There are certain nonprofits around the country that'll be happy to help. They can help with any kind of debris clearing, and there's a lot of them like that. What the hell is it called? First response or something like that. I forgot the name of it. Well, anyways, there's a lot of non-government, not-for-profits that can actually help besides, the typical big ones, the Red Cross, Salvation Army. And so, assistance, requests from federal and states, other states. Then now getting on to, now guess what? Things need to be rebuilt. So this is one area where the Stafford Act allows for really a lot of grant funding when it comes to infrastructure restoration. And that process can be time consuming and not very fast. So let me just put it that way. It requires filling out an application, providing all the evidence the cost is going to be based on, and what the entire scope of work is going to be. So the best thing to really do is to get started on that right away after everybody knows what all the infrastructure has been damaged, and is to really get all the exact damage dimensions of every single infrastructure asset that they have, be able to find plans for buildings that were destroyed or very badly damaged that might as well have been destroyed, so they can have something to base those estimates on and start getting very detailed damage assessments and estimates together as soon as possible. And of course, not to forget about environmental and historical laws and certain permits and certain criteria that need to be followed to be in compliance with federal environmental and historic preservation laws, and also state environmental and historic preservation laws. Very, very important, because by law, the federal government cannot fund something that violates a law. That's one thing that people get into a bit of a pickle over. Oh shit, we didn't know we had to follow those laws? Well, yes, you do. Why don't you tell me that sooner? Good point. Yes, that is why environmental experts and historic preservation experts need to be involved right away during all of that planning, all the recovery planning, and developing how we're going to fix everything when it comes to individual facilities, scope of work, and cost estimates. Somebody that's very knowledgeable of environmental and historic preservation laws will be at those meetings, so they have an idea of what types of additional studies or anything that may be needed and permits that may be needed. So it comes to think about it, it sounds like a big bureaucratic process. Yes, in a way it is. However, it's also a way to ensure that taxpayer money is spent for what is supposed to be spent for, and it's not in conflict with other laws. So there's the infrastructure rebuilding, and yes, those projects are going to take a while, especially if major infrastructure assets like water, wastewater treatment plants, power generation plants, and even power distribution stations. They're totally damaged and need to get repaired. That can definitely be a very, very long-term project, as can big buildings. So basically, when it starts recovery planning, it's usually done in a couple of parts, short-term and long-term. Short-term is getting the most critical elements back up and running to where business can operate out of, whether it's temporary facilities or temporary repairs, while the real longer-term repairs are being done. That's usually in short-term recovery, as is getting people temporary housing. That's often in short-term recovery. Then we get to longer-term recovery. You need get people back in permanent housing of some sort, and then also the permanent infrastructure rebuilding of all those large infrastructure assets that can keep communities running. So that's the overall process, and yes, it can take years, especially in that recovery stage. So it's always very important to start a recovery planning session with the knowledge that everything is not going to be brought back to it's not going to be brought back to normal ever, really, but it's not going to be brought back to a new normal anytime soon. So we all know it's highly complex, and there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a whole lot of other factors that are going to come into play, and just to increase the complexity that everyone's going to have to navigate. So start based on those assumptions. They can look to use simplification for their problem solving and be able to assign and delegate tasks and responsibilities to a multitude of people that are all working in their areas, and they all come meet up and get together and say, okay, this is what we got accomplished so far, and now this is what we need to accomplish during this next period of time. Take it one step at a time. It's a way to eat an elephant, one fucking bite at a time. And also, yes, always remain vigilant, because now you got vulnerable populations, and you've got a lot of criminals running amok in the various cities. They can get away with doing whatever the fuck they want to do. And now there's a vulnerable population in new disaster areas that can, maybe prime for targets for those criminals or other criminals that are more into the fraud market. So vigilance, always important. It's one of the key fundamentals of Operation Security. Vigilance. Keep on the lookout for anything weird going on. Watch out for your buddies, watch out for your neighbors, watch each other's backs. Don't let bad people get away with doing bad shit. Let them know this is your town, you're not going to tolerate that shit, you're not going to tolerate criminals stealing shit and vandalizing. You're not going to tolerate these little dickheads that want to go around and try to rip people off. So yes, extreme vigilance. Extreme vigilance. Really can't say that term enough to get to the most important safety principle, whether it's operations, security, or any type of public safety. Vigilance, be aware of everything that's going on. If not initially aware, make yourself aware. A lot of information. Okay, a lot of the information on the internet is bullshit, so there's a lot of shit to sift through. However, there's a lot of real information that can be obtained at the ground level. For one, neighbors, any friends, any people that are just standing around all wondering what they're going to do now. Get to chatting, develop camaraderie, develop good communication, and of course being able to, hey, build a good team out of your neighbors. Why the hell not? And of course local and state emergency managers might have good information leads, or at least a direct towards a 211 information system that can help out with providing information to help with vigilance. The more we know, the better off we're going to be. And again, yes, I'm going to advocate having firearms and knowing how to use them. Because when bad people come to do bad shit to you, guess what? Oh, call the cops. Oh, what if the cops can't get there? Oh, what if the cops are busy from people protesting, or not really protesting, but rioting, looting, and doing bad shit to other people? Guess what? They're not going to be able to be there. Oh, the cops are 5-10 minutes away. Shit, oh, they can't really say, wait, hold on, bad guy. Don't do anything to me. You have to wait 5 minutes because I just called the cops. No. That's why I'm a very big advocate and very big fan of the Standing Ground laws and Good Samaritan laws. Yes, because it is our responsibility to protect ourselves. And if we see somebody that's having something bad done to them, yes, I do believe we have a duty to help our fellow people out. I see some little asshole mugging somebody, yes, Good Samaritan law comes into effect. Yes, I do not like to butt into other people's business, but hey, if someone's getting mugged or there's a sexual assault going on, then absolutely. Now, if some dickhead is doing something to a little kid, oh yeah, absolutely. That person is going to get hurt very, very badly. All right. So, this whole session here was a whole lot of ranting and raving about ways to mitigate human type of violence, a hypothetical major war scenario that's really not to be kept on too much of a back burner right now. Because with all kinds of stability and all kinds of other goofy shit, I wouldn't really give it a 0 or a very low % chance of it happening. And the more hurricanes and the more protests and the more civil disturbance and the more, hell, even fires and tropical storms and even more hurricanes that hammer this country, the more resources are being diverted and spread thin all over the country, the more chaos breaks out, the more vulnerable the entire nation becomes to two very big, fairly powerful adversaries to, well, take advantage of a situation that at least one of them has waited decades for. Yes, don't trust those fucking Russians. That's the message. Alright, anyhow, I'm Dr. Tom McKnight, and everyone have a good day. Until next time.